I think that really depends on what sector you are in and what's your field and so on. Obviously, there are certain fields where you can negotiate and sort of aim for a skilled worker sponsorship immediately, like technology or medicine. I had friends who were in the medical field who managed to straight up get a skilled worker sponsorship. But there are many others like me. I come from a non-medical, non-tech background. I'm doing marketing. So for people like us, I think it's harder to aim for the skilled worker sponsorship, mainly because there's so many candidates within the UK for sectors like that. So it's hard to convince your employer to give you a skilled worker visa. So I would definitely say for non-medical, non-tech, non-shortage occupation list, as it was called before, for candidates or students from those fields to definitely convert to GIR and then convince your employer to move to a skilled worker sponsorship. I've also sensed that there are a lot of students that might try and jump to a skilled worker sponsorship directly and in the process let go of many job offers that they get on a GIR. I don't recommend that. So I would, if you're from a non-medical, non-tech based field, definitely convert to GIR and take a job offer that you can potentially settle with for now, and then you can sort of move forward after that.
So there's merits, there's advantages and disadvantages in both. But I think one of the big things that I will always say to international students is, you have to look at the market and you have to look at what's happening in your sector. Just as Swetha said, with different sectors, it's a lot easier to get a skilled worker visa. With other sectors, it's a lot more difficult. So it's about building up your CV, building up your experience, because if you're good, a company, or if you're committed, a company is going to want to sponsor you because they're going to want to keep you for the long term.
There are a lot of sectors where the graduate schemes exist. So you can have, large scale recruitment happens and you can have the skilled worker visa sponsorship, and you will find a lot of these opportunities on our jobs board as well. So when you log into Student Circus, you see the jobs, you will notice a lot of these jobs are in specific sectors. So as Swetha rightly mentioned, there are certain sectors that will have very rare opportunities that come with a skilled worker sponsorship. And so in those cases, the GIR can be a great foot in the door.
Well, just as Swetha said, is, it gives you the flexibility. So your graduate visa, you can be employed, you can be self-employed, you can be a combination of both. So you might have a business idea which you're setting up. You might also take a job at the same time. It gives you that flexibility. Employers don't need to sponsor you. So you're not tied to the employer. The employer is also not really tied to you because you're on the independent visa.
Definitely say go with the GIR at first, mainly because I think there's so much flexibility with GIR, but once you move to a skilled worker visa, you're tied to one employer. When you're on a GIR, I think you can switch jobs easily. When you're an international student and you come in and then you get a number of job offers. Let's say you join a company, you don't like it, then it would be easier for you to sort of find another job and move to the next one. And for me, the good thing was I found an employer and I managed to stay with them, but I assume that's not the case with a lot of people. So if you're really looking to settle with one company long term, and if you want to stay in a happy workplace or so, I think it's better to go with the GIR and then see how you're doing with the company. GIR is like the trial period. So when you give a company that trial period and that company gives you that trial period, I think there's a lot of trust built. And I think when both parties are happy, you move forward. And I think that's a successful, collaboration. So I would definitely say go for GIR and think of it as a trial period.
With a lot of international students, there's always a big rush to get onto the skilled worker visa. I mean, quite rightly, it leads to settlement. It puts you on a path to settlement straight away. Whereas with the graduate visa, I know a lot of people in the chat are calling it PSW. It's the same visa, graduate visa. It's officially called the graduate visa. Previously, it was known as the post-study work visa, but it's still the same visa category. The graduate visa is a temporary visa. So you only get it for 2 years, 3 years if you're a PhD student. It's a one-time visa. And so you can only apply for it if you have successfully completed your studies in the UK on a tier 4 or a student visa. And you can only apply for it once your university has confirmed that you have successfully completed your course. And another question we get asked a lot about is dependence. So for example, your dependent has to be here on your student visa. In order to be a dependent on your graduate visa, a new dependent can't come in afterwards. Contrast that with the skilled worker visa, which used to be known as tier 2, as Ritika, you pointed out at the beginning, is, if you get married later on down the line and you're on a skilled worker visa, you can apply to bring your dependent to the UK. That can happen afterwards, whereas on the graduate visa, they have to be your dependents on your student visa in order to be able to qualify to be dependents on the graduate visa. Now, some people see the graduate visa as dead time because it doesn't lead to settlement and think, if I have that for 2 years, then I get a skilled worker visa, it's going to be 7 years before I can settle in the UK.
I applied for my graduate route visa in 2021, August 2021, but I think I was one of the first batches to get 2 years of graduate route visas, and I think the processing at that point was fairly fast. So I think I received mine in a week or two. For my skilled worker sponsorship, I applied for it August last year. I think there's a bit of delay with standard skilled worker visa timeline. So my employer agreed to apply on a priority basis because I had to travel out of country. So I applied on a priority basis for my skilled worker visa, but I think my GIR it came by pretty quickly.
You can pay an extra £800 and get a decision within 24 hours, pay an extra £500 and get a decision within 5 working days. Standard processing, even though the Home Office say it can take about 8 weeks, they are coming through in a couple of weeks. So we're not seeing a lot of delays. There's no priority processing for graduate visas, but again, we are seeing those coming through in a couple of weeks.